to the show that never ends. We're so glad you could attend. Come inside, come inside.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe. I suggest we use it.
You're listening to Living Clean and Sober on City of Angels Recovery Radio.
Here's Johnny.
And with the host of our show, Johnny Rides.
You are talking to a man who has laughed in the face of death, sneered at doom, and chuckled at catastrophe.
His partner in crime and co-host, MacDonald.
What is thy bidding, my master?
So before this is over, I'm gonna need a whole lot of serious therapy.
It's like I picked the wrong week to quit smoking.
And our engineer, Art Ackerman.
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain!
I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
You see, we're on a mission from God.
Bye-bye, boys.
Have fun storming the castle.
Hey, come on. We're superheroes. What could happen?
With all due respect, sir, I believe this is going to be our finest hour.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's Johnny.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our show. You're listening to City of Angels, Living Clean and Sober. Johnny Rags and my co-host, Ken MacDonald. Excuse me.
Old MacDonald.
Old MacDonald. Yeah, he's old. And my ever-capable engineer, Art Ackerman. Hello, Art.
Good morning. How
How are you? We got a great show for you guys tonight. You can go on our website, cityofangelsnj.org, see the amazing things that we do. We have all kind of stuff for people, and just go to that website and check it out. If you want to give us a call, 609-241-7103. Let us know what you're thinking. Let us know if you agree or disagree with one of our guests, or have any comments or parting thoughts. Again, that number is 609-241-7103. Coming to you from the garden spot of the world, Hightstown, New Jersey.
Lovely Hightstown, New Jersey.
Lovely.
All 5 blocks.
We were discussing that at dinner. Everyone in here.
What's tonight, Menino's? No.
Yeah, we might as well give them a plug. We're there every week.
They should sponsor our show. They should.
Yeah, they should. Maybe we'll talk to them next week about that. Anyway, welcome, guys. We have Robbie Strauber, an interventionist and friend of mine. Right next to me is John Becker. Welcome, John. Thanks for coming out. And the lovely Mary on to my left.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome. Thanks for coming, guys. All right, what's going on? Did you have a happy Father's Day?
Actually, I was sick all day yesterday. We went to Atlantic City Friday and Saturday.
Nice.
And I woke up and I was sick like all day yesterday. It was horrible. But it was a nice day.
You weren't sick because you lost a lot, right?
No, I walk away, man. It's time to walk the boardwalk sometimes, you know?
I hear you. So what's going on, guys? How you doing?
Things are good. Thanks, John. I appreciate you inviting us to the show, and I know it's been a long time coming, and I was happy to be a part of another show a couple months ago, but good to be here with you. Life is good,
my friend.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you guys coming out and taking the time, because of course we know that the disease of addiction is killing people. So all of us are involved in this fight. So what better than to have you on the show to talk about how we're trying to fight it?
Absolutely. Thrilled to be here, John.
Thanks. I'm thrilled to have you. I really am. I'm really glad you're here. Mary, how are you?
Good.
What's going on with Mary today?
Today?
Well, whenever.
I don't know, just hanging in there, still clean, still sober, working in the field, trying to help people trying to raise my crazy 2-year-old who was home from school today. Sick. Yeah. So.
That's always good.
Yeah.
Mine's going to be home from school every day after tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. Thank God daycare has summer camps.
That's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
And of course, me having an adult child, we won't say how old she is.
I have those too.
34 she just turned last week. Can't believe they're old, John. I am.
Young at heart.
That's right. And Robbie and I were talking before you guys got there that if I believed that I would have lived this long, I probably would have paid more attention to my own life. But I didn't, so what are you going to do?
You're making up for it now.
Yeah, man, my life is incredible. I mean, what do I have to complain about, really? I mean, absolutely. In the grand scheme of things, I have an incredible life. I have friends like you guys who got it better than that. I mean, for real, It's amazing. It's amazing. So, talk away, guys. What do you want to talk about? Want to talk about the Bill Cosby verdict?
No.
You know what? I'm so tired of hearing about that.
But it's not a verdict.
I don't think you're done hearing about it just yet.
No, we're not. But, there's a lot of things going on. Last week, we dedicated this show to Maria, my dear friend who lost her battle with this thing, and it just continues to happen, And then, as recovering people and all that, I always question myself. What could I do more? How could I do it better? Them kind of things. Or how could we do it better? What could we do as a team? How could we help more people? How could we reach more people? And that's what we try to do with this show. We want to reach people. And Kenny always says, we miss you, Ken. Call in if you can.
We do. In case you forgot the number, 609-241-7103.
Maybe he'll give us the word of the week over the phone. How about that?
That'll work.
We got this segment. It's called Word of the Week, because I like words. I'm a word guy, And every week he's inspired by the show, because we do it like 8:45, or he just has this word that he picked out, that weekend or something. And Marty's got a whole thing to do with that too, so. Right?
Not at all.
Well, John, I'm sorry to hear about your your loss.
Thank you.
I think we're all in the business of saving lives here, and unfortunately, sometimes we don't always get to do that. And the grave reality of this disease is that some will pass. So I'm glad to hear that I do the same thing. If we do lose somebody, and I just heard I lost somebody today too that I had done some work with, and you look back and you reflect and you say, have I done everything that I possibly can? And I think it's about what do we have at our disposal, and we're people just like anybody else, and we're trying to help other people, and sometimes we can't control all that, and so when I lost this person today and got notice of that, and I went back and started to think about what did we do, and when I got the telephone call, I picked it up. When I was asked to go and help, I was there, and that person ended up had some struggles, but got his family back for the last 6 months. And you reflect why, and as a person in long-term recovery, why me? Why do I get this gift of life today? And I had a great sponsor once, Ron, and God rest his soul, say, "Why not you?" And I think that's just it. We have to wake up, and we're going to suffer these losses, and but we got to continue to suit up and show up and keep fighting this fight, and what I love about something like this is that we get an opportunity to be able to all work together. Not one of us ever have the answer, and I think if we ever start to really think that we do, if it's a treatment center or if it's, an outreach coordinator or a therapist or an interventionist, and we operate in a bubble, I think we're going to get in trouble. So, in a forum like this where people can call in and touch base and share their concerns and share their victories, that's what gets me up in the morning to keep on trucking.
Good insight, and I'm sorry to hear about your loss.
Thanks.
And that's, I remember, because this has been, years and years ago when I was clean. Like I said, I got clean in '88, and it wasn't like this. It wasn't awful. I mean, this is awful. Every so often you'd hear of somebody like that. They had some time with their families. They were reunited. Good things happen, and then boom. But and I sat with Kevin. We had lunch, and I told him that it affects me a whole lot more these days. Like this Maria girl, 2 times into treatment, and we were getting her ready to come into a recovery house. Of course, she had to be clean, and she would call my fiance every day and let her know what she was doing. And Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, she called her every morning. Friday morning, she called her, but then that was the last she heard of her. And, the sad part is she was excited about coming into the recovery house and getting her life together. She was excited about that her daughter was happy that she was doing it. And she died alone. And that's the sad part. She was in a shelter. And it's just, and I was at the funeral with a friend of mine, and I just, how you want to be cool and you want to wipe the tears and go, I'm okay. I just let it come out, and I wept hard. And I just, when I heard about it, it's like I got punched in the stomach. And not everyone affects me like that. You know what I mean? Just that one.
I guess it's just something you never get numb to. It just doesn't stop,
Right.
And it gets more personal and more personal. It's more people that you're involved with. It's somebody who you were trying to help, and
Right.
The inevitable happens. And it's hard. It's hard to go on.
Yeah.
But we find hard, right? We find a way.
Exactly. And that's why we do what we do.
To piggyback off what you said, John, I think what makes it even harder is it seems like more people are dying from overdoses than ever before, and because the drugs are more powerful. They've crept into every area of society, so there's no group that you can point to and say, we need to focus on this group and get the word out, get in touch with these people and provide services to this group. It's everyone. Being in recovery myself, I was an opioid addict, and I was a police officer, and I became an addict. So, if it can happen to me, it can happen to anyone. And all we can keep doing is, when I hear about the loss of somebody that I know, or just anyone really, in addition to the sadness I feel, I also get a sense of gratitude that, okay, I'm okay today. That's not me today.
Right.
And it kind of helps me refocus and say, all right, because we always hear about the overdoses, right? It's a big tragedy, and it is. I think sometimes we have to remind ourselves of the successes, the people that have gotten their lives back, and when we lose somebody, it brings us down, but it shouldn't stop us from doing the work that we do.
Exactly, and the end, that rainbow, the joy that you see when you said 6 months, no one, who's to say anyway? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So that was good, and that was granted. So, you have to extract some kind of gratitude out of it and say, okay, at least that happened, And tell you, sometimes it's overwhelming, But that's why we do this, and not to be crate hangers and all that. There's joy in recovery.
Well, doing this show is with the hope of, to see people that are actively in recovery and have their lives back is the motivation to continue doing what we're doing. I mean...
Yeah, thanks. All right. I agree with you. I think, it is all about hope and, these minor victories that might come through. I mean, recovery's hard, right? And, it's chronic, it's progressive, it's relapsing disease. And at the end of the day, we all need to band together, right? Because once we isolate and once we stop living in a solution, and whatever that might be, then the problem starts looking a lot better. And and whoever's on the phone who might be struggling or listening to us, and who needs help. I mean, there is a lot of help out there. Especially with what City of Angels does, and the folks that I'm sitting here in this room with, represent other organizations, and there's ways that we can get people involved to come up with some different solutions and look at things differently. And if we keep looking at the same thing and keep doing the same thing, to remedy an issue, and it's not working, we need help. And there's a lot of great peer-to-peer programs that are out there, and different organizations that can come alongside with, and not just for the individual struggling with substance use disorder, but their families and friends that are suffering along with, and just encourage people to reach out and keep talking and learn everything that you possibly can about this. And I'm confident that there is a solution. Not, like I said, not any one of us has that, but I think collectively, we're going to be able to get ahead of this. And the unfortunate part is, like we talked about, some people are going to be lost along the way. And what are the lessons that are learned from that? And how can their memories be incorporated into somebody else's recovery? That's a very difficult thing to really pull together and accept, but I think it's a necessary thing.
Absolutely.
I was gathering some statistics for a little short movie that I'm working on, and we lost 500,000 people since 2000.
Jesus.
Wow.
500,000. And currently there are 750,000 active heroin addicts in the United States.
Wow.
That's crazy. Those numbers are just nuts.
That's just mind-blowing.
But I think what's so important to talk about is to let people know, whether it be the family members or the addict, that it's okay to ask for help. Because we're not going to help. There's not some magic, chart that shows us this one in that state, in that town is using and need help, and we're going to go, to their house and do an intervention or try and help them. The biggest thing is it's okay to ask for help. You have to ask. The family members, need to ask for help. This doesn't have to be. It's not a shameful thing, in today's society. It affects everyone. I don't know anybody who doesn't know somebody who's struggling,
Who knows somebody who knows somebody.
Right. Everybody knows somebody, at least where I come from in my experience, somebody who's struggling with addiction, a family member, a friend of a friend, and this has to start to be one of those things where, even if it's not for yourself, even if it's for someone else, you have to speak up about it. And it's just about, and there's still, of course, that stigma, about addiction and how it's a little bit, within families, within tight circles, within communities. That is a shameful thing. Nobody wants to talk about it, but that's why I love, what we all do, because we're all in recovery and we're going to talk about it, whether it be in meetings, whether it be in our jobs, whether it be on radio shows, and just let people know, we've all been there, and now, we made it through that. So, just talk about it and get like not the solution, but the hope, the light at the end of the tunnel, you know, that if we all sitting here can do it, that anybody can, but you got to take that first step, you know, and you don't have to be the addict to take that first step. I have family members who reach out to me a lot before the actual addict does, you know, and I'm sure everyone sitting here, just like me, will go to the app. I don't ever not answer my phone. You know, I don't ever not answer my phone.
The first ones that are affected are your family members, right? So,
Yeah.
of course, they're going to be the first ones that see it. They're going to be
Right.
the first ones that notice the swinging behavior.
They know your
all those red
patterns.
flags. Come in. You know, you're the first one to notice them as a family member, right?
Yeah.
And it's really been my experience that the families know the most, right? I mean, we can help anybody who raises their hand or comes to a meeting and says, hey, I need some help. And, you know, I think that's admirable. But oftentimes, and especially in the work that I do as an interventionist, we don't get that, right? So we've got the families saying, we've tried everything. What do we do from here? And, you know, I get maybe even more excited about walking into a home where an individual is not ready to go and get treatment and watch the dynamic shift from, you know, this obstinance to, you know, get out of my home to, you know, you're not changing me. And then, you know, with doing some of the family work beforehand and messaging in the right way out of love and concern, watching, you know, the fact and training the families and educating them on stigma and how that affects, you know, our message that we give to our loved one. You just watch all that melt away because, you know, the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous states that, you know, alcoholism is the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde disease, and that's the same for drug addiction. And, you know, the fact of the matter is our loved one's still there. They're just underneath lots of layers of defense and years of abuse.
I called my daughter Reagan when she was in the throes of her addiction.
So, you know, to watch some of that melt away in a few hours and, you know, really show that person, hey, you know what, you're of value and we love you and we know that you don't want to be in this situation. I think, you know, that's extremely rewarding. But, you know, at the same time, you know, we're dealing with sometimes the hardest thing to overcome, which is God's free will for us all, right? And so they don't always end in success, or it doesn't always end in somebody to go into treatment or get into recovery. But, you know, at the same time, it does institute or begin change for those families on how they interact within their system.
And I'll tell you, we've seen a lot of that, you know, in the amount of kids that we've lost, right? In just this year alone, since January. I mean, the parents that have lost a child don't sit back and bury their head in their pillow. You know, I mean, they have every right to do that, but they don't. You know what I mean? They get involved. They try to educate or save one kid, or you know what I mean? Whatever it is, they try to be more involved with stuff. I was amazed, I think, at Mrs. Oswald. Her son was Andrew Oswald. She lost him in January. 2 weeks later, she was like at our addiction shoot, remember? Over by the river. She really wants to be involved. She was there the day we had the governor. And the White House and all that stuff. So they really want to get involved and give back and see something change.
Well, family is so important. You know, I'm going to kind of do a shameless plug here, but it ties into what I want to say.
Shameless plugs are allowed.
John, you know, I run a first responder program here in New Jersey for advanced health and education. The program's Frontline Responder Services. And Mary, it ties into what you were saying as far as the stigma and getting the families involved, right? First responders, you know, the last place that the dysfunction shows up for policemen, firemen, EMT, veterans, whatever, is at the workplace. You know, they'll hide it there, but you talk to their wife or their children or their husband, and they can tell you, just like Rob just said, And it's so, we want our addicts and alcoholics to ask for help, but they don't always do that. Usually, in my world, they usually come to me when they've gotten in trouble at work, trouble at home, or trouble with the law. And that's police, fire, and EMS. And that applies, I think, to all of society. So we really need the families to get involved, and especially if you're, someone in recovery and you have a family member that's struggling, don't hesitate to reach out and get help and make that call.
Yeah, I think that in most cases, in my experience, there's always a family dynamic. There's always where once you sit down with the family and you talk to them and you do some, like he was saying, family work, get some family history and figure out where's the disconnect here, and sit down and talk with them. It's, for me at least, a little bit easier to kind of meet the addict where they're at. And that's been my biggest thing, in doing what I'm doing. Like, in meetings and stuff like that, it's a big, if you want help, ask for help. Get your hand up and ask for help, and we will help you. But in my life, outside of meetings, my whole thing is, meet them where they're at. Go the extra mile. Meet the addict where they're at. Meet the family members where they're at.
Those familiar terms to you, John?
What?
I'm just testing my student here.
But that's been my motivation, is I'm gonna get into your life. I'm gonna help you. And until they tell me, I absolutely don't want your help, I never really get that response. Once I'm in there and I'm speaking with the family and the addict, whether it be separately or together, most of the time there's something that pops up, that makes sense, and something clicks within them,
Right. Well, that's it, and a lot of families are shocked when their loved ones are finally getting help, and then you recommend a family group or something like that, and they say, well, he's away now, everything's cool,
and that's what when their loved one is away, they need to be educating themselves and learning about addiction
and recovering themselves
and recovery and all that.
And
it's all part of the plan.
And one of the neat things is most treatment centers today have some sort of family program to provide that support and education, so that when your loved one comes home,
Yeah, when my daughter was at Turning Point, every Saturday when you went up there, it was family. You had to sit through the 2 hours of, I mean, to me it was worth it. I had already seen most of that, but I thought it was good education for those that were new to, addiction, and their loved one was up there. So they probably wouldn't have got that education had they not gotten that there. I mean, we offered that through City of Angels, our family program on Wednesdays and Friday nights. It's like 3 hours, I think, all together total, and there's no charge for that. But there's a lot of family programs out there. You should go educate yourself.
Yeah. And it's a shame. I feel like there's not a shame. There's awesome family groups, and there's a lot of them. What I meant is, it's a shame because in my experience, once the family member is in treatment, I stress family groups to every family member so much, and rarely do they go. Rarely do they go. And I even will tell them, you need to go. You need to go, because now listen, at the end of the day, it's up to the addict if they want to, people can go through stuff and they can come home, maybe to not the best environment like I did, I didn't, when I got out of treatment, I didn't, go to a sober living. I didn't go to an Oxford or anything like that. I went home to the same place that I used at my entire life, and I was okay. That's not always everybody's experience.
That's not what we recommend.
Right. Seriously. But if the families go to family group while the family member is in treatment, they're going to learn what to expect when they get out. They're going to learn what needs to change in the family dynamic. They're going to learn, what could possibly trigger them, what to kind of let roll off their back, what emotions this person's going to have when they get out of treatment. Because, when you're you're in early recovery, you're an emotional roller coaster. And sometimes, like, you know, people come home and the addict is still very emotional, and the family members are like, oh my God, I don't know what to do.
That's why we just don't recommend that you go right home when you're coming out. I mean, you should transition into sober living, and maybe at some point in time you can go back home.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not recommended for most people in the beginning. My daughter, we brought home, you know what I mean? And she did live in sober living for a while, but, you know, she did end up eventually coming home. I just think it keeps you honest.
Yeah.
It keeps you around like-minded people. It keeps you accountable. And it's going to keep you going to meetings and doing the things you're supposed to be doing, right, when you're in recovery.
Well, continuum of care is always the best way to go.
I think it's important to recognize something. I mean, it's not just the loved one that seeks treatment that is getting into recovery. It's also the families that need to get into recovery. I will speak to some family group dynamics. I was able to do some research on this at another treatment center that I had worked at, and we did find that it took between 4 and 6 months before a person who's just dropped their loved one off for the first time in treatment to actually accept a family group type dynamic. And it's very, very difficult, and some are better than others, just like recovery meetings are peer-to-peer. Yeah. And if it's not about going to a family group for a family member, then how do they partner with a therapist or maybe another peer or somebody, another family member has been through all of this, to be able to provide those checks and balances. The key is and Art said it, when families drop their loved ones off, they expect, they're going to be gone for 30 days. That's not always the case, and and by the time they come out, this should be fine, and that's definitely not the case. So, when we deal with something like this, then how do we partner with those families that may not be willing to do that, and how do we really encourage them to find their own recovery that's going to look different than their loved ones,
right? And
get them prepared, because Art, you had even shared it with your experience. I don't care if you go to a program for 30, 60, 90 days and then, or go to a different state for another year in a recovery house, you're coming home at some point, right, be it Thanksgiving or Christmas or, whenever, and, what's going to happen when they encounter those sights and smells and those triggers that we talk about within those dynamics, and how to treatment's important to address that with the individual, but then it's also important for the families to understand maybe what they're going through. So one thing I found that's so important is building relationships, right? We can have the best treatment center with the best family programs, but we all have good forgetters. And I don't care if you go for 5 days and you have 50 hours of education about addiction. When your loved one comes back, that tends to go right out the window. Mm-hmm. And these patterns have existed probably a lot longer than even the chemicals had been in their loved ones. So, how do we get family members to recognize their role? And it's not to do recovery for their loved ones, but it's to provide accountability and support. And what does that look like? So, a lot of the work that I do is not just in the hours before an intervention, during the intervention. We also discuss things ongoing. And if that's 30 days after treatment, 60 days, a year, I have people I've been working with for 3 or 4 years, and I became that resource for them. Right. And, the fact is that that's really what we need to be able to do. And, not just in the 2 hours before, they get to have lunch and see their loved one. Everybody's going to do that. Where do we get the engagement and become of value to families and their loved ones for the long term? That's hard to do.
It's very hard to do.
I agree, Rob. And, one of the important things is when you're looking for somewhere to place your loved one, these are the things that you want to think about, right? Or at least, hopefully, have somebody explain to you the importance of that aftercare, that follow-up, that partnership, because, the families are as sick as the person
Sicker.
going in, usually.
Yeah.
But
we have much higher expectations and we're in denial, right?
And we've enabled it. In a lot of cases, we've enabled the behavior for so long.
It's ingrained.
It's ingrained in us. It's that dynamic, and a lot of times what we see happen is the client, the addict or alcoholic, comes home and they've gotten better and the family hasn't. And then, they're expecting the same behaviors, or they're acting the same way they did before their loved one went away, and that creates a whole new set of problems.
The definition of insanity, right?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, most of the time for the families, it's a control thing. Sometimes, a lot of times.
That's why I really have to say, it's not recommended to come right home from treatment. Besides, you don't get it that long. If you can get a month, man, you're blessed, right?
Right.
In today's environment. I know people that just got 2 weeks and then they're in sober living, or they're not even getting treatment. They have to go to IOP, and, we have to set them up with some type of a sober living arrangement, you know what I mean, so that they can go to IOP. And how hard is that? I mean, it still costs money to go to a sober living house. Yep. You got to pay for that. And if you don't have a job, you need somebody that's either, paying that bill for you or scholarshiping you or something along the road to continue your recovery. So it's really hard for people without insurance.
Well, sober living's so important. Even the first responders that I work with, we'll place them in sober living when it's appropriate.
Right.
Especially if they're not welcome home, first of all, a lot of times, or, they've just created such a dynamic at home that the best thing for them to do is to be in sober living. And I'm talking, not 20-year-old kids, 40, 45-year-old adults.
Right.
Going into sober living, and it's what they need. It's very important.
It's part of the process,
Yep.
right?
The healing process.
The healing process. It takes a while. Even in my daughter, I mean, it took, I'm telling you, 18 months before I even started to see her somewhat come back to gratitude, I mean, thinking about somebody other than herself. 18 months, I mean, it's been a great progress and a great joy to watch that happen. But man, you sit back and you go, I don't think I'm ever going to see the day that this is going to happen.
Here she is.
She's my young one. She hasn't given me any trouble yet.
How
She's taking this all in, too.
Yeah,
City of Angels, give us a call, 609-241-7103.
And don't forget, you can call in 609-241-7103.
So we're all on the same page with that topic. A little bit about you guys, if you want to share. How was it? What happened? What your life is like now? People need to hear
I don't think you have enough time for that.
Well, we could do a little snippet,
Give us the 30-second commercial.
I'll go first.
Oh, is it the 2-minute commercial? That's
Sure.
This way people get to know, and love you.
So, my name's John Becker. I am a grateful recovering addict. At 41 years of age, I had some medical issues, started taking pain medication, became an addict. And as a police officer, I started to do things that civilians aren't supposed to do, certainly not police officers. Eventually got caught, went to treatment, went back to school, got my bachelor's in behavioral health counseling, my master's degree, and for the last 5 years I've been working with the first responder population, providing residential and IOP treatment for them. I work for Advanced Health and Education right here in New Jersey, up in Eatontown, and the name of our program is Frontline Responder Services.
John, do you find a lot of, I'd imagine as a first responder, they are just coming across some horrible things, right, that they have to deal with every day and absorb in. I know I can only take so much, you know what I mean, and I break down at some point in time. You can only absorb so much of that, so.
Sure, and that's often a big part of the substance abuse and the dysfunctional behavior. Most first responders that come into treatment have some sort of trauma that's unresolved. It's almost universal. Because what happens is, just like everybody, they self-medicate. It's easier to wish it away or numb it out than it is to deal with it. And first responders aren't supposed to have problems, right? They're the helpers. So there's a message that they get from themselves, from the community, from the media, that they're supposed to be perfect. And when they're not, it's very hard for them to ask for help, and they try to hide it.
And you know what? I have to believe that most of them are perfect in the public eye. But when you go home, again, you can only take so much, right? It has to get released some way, somehow.
Yeah, self-care is one of the biggest things. I do a lot of trainings around the country, and one of the things that I really touch on is the lack of self-care in the first responder fields. There's just not a whole lot of it emotional and psychological self-care. So,
come to think of it, anything that begins with self can't be good. That's my problem, self.
Yeah.
I was shocked when they told me you have to lose yourself. Self has to die. What are you talking about?
Be reborn again.
But they were right.
Absolutely.
Daily. Have to lose myself into the spiritual path, which we call the steps.
That's right.
And then when you get that joy.
Elevator's broken, take the steps.
That's right.
Nice.
That's what everybody hears from this guy.
Well, one of the topics that we talked about too, John, was getting involved with peers, right? Peer groups and peer support. And with the first responder community, what we found is, having peer-driven treatment really works. Our program, designed by first responders. First responders work at our treatment center and provide the services. It's been fantastic, and we're not the only game in town, so there's a lot of places available for these first responders to go.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And as you were talking, I'm thinking there has to be big time trauma going on that is either pushed under the rug or numbed out, like you said, or just
look at the number of overdose calls alone. I'm sure that they have to go on now that, that wasn't so much in the past, right?
Nope. Yeah, and the thing is, the traumas, it's usually not one big incident that takes the first responders out. It's that cumulative effect.
Right, it's over and over.
Over and over, and they're just pushing it aside. And I don't care if you work in New York City or Hightstown, New Jersey. Over your career, you're going to see things.
Right.
And, some people are able to process that, and really it doesn't impact them. But trauma is very individual. And some of us, it impacts us. And if we don't treat it, it's going to come out sideways.
It's the human factor.
Yeah.
Indeed. Let's hear from the left side of the room here.
I'm Mary MacGregor.
Hi, Mary MacGregor. How are you?
I've been good. I've been in recovery since 2014, a little over 3 years now. Just to say a little bit about myself, I was born an addict. From day one, I couldn't get enough of anything. I was a troubled kid. I didn't do well in school. I was always getting kicked out, always suspended, always in trouble. I never cared about anything but myself. And obviously, that rings bells for anybody else in recovery, because we're just, no, not at all. Because we're just self-centered. We are just self-centered, and that's how I was my entire life. And then Back in 2014, I went to treatment. I got out. I only went to treatment once. And I got really, really involved in recovery. I got really, really involved in my own recovery. I put the work in. I definitely, through doing step work and through doing the work and kind of dealing with my own trauma, getting help for that in the recovery process and also with outside help, kind of brought me today to where I'm at is, I'm still in recovery. I have a sponsor. I sponsor women. I'm a mother. I'm a good mother, which I never thought, back when I was using, was always a huge fear of mine. Being a parent, you really got to be selfless. You really, really have to. And that is, beyond what we're capable of as addicts, is, being selfless. And being a mother has taught me so much about, it is not about me, ever. Never is it about me. Not at any moment. Yeah, not at any moment. I have a 2-year-old, and she runs the show. She runs the show. I'm not in charge.
And if you forget that for a second, she'll let you know.
Absolutely. She will let me know. But it has taught me so much about love and compassion, not only for just human beings, but also for addicts. Looking back to how I used to be and how I am now, has really been able to help me help other people. It's really just things that I've learned about myself has been able to help me help other addicts and not be judgmental and be loving and caring to everybody. Because we all, addicts, we all struggle with similar things, but we all come from different places. And like you said, there's a whole first responders, that struggle with things that I've never, had to deal with. And then there's, people who've dealt with things from childhood trauma that I have had to deal with, and then things that I have no clue about, so it's definitely helped me open my eyes to as many, forms of addiction and forms of suffering that we all have gone through, in different levels of our addiction and, in our lives. But I don't know, today I'm happy. I'm blessed, and I wouldn't change anything that I've ever been through for anything. I've been able to take a lot of negative things and turn it into a positive, which I thought I could do in active addiction, but I was so delusional, that none of that was actually really true. I thought I was untouchable and the best person ever, and really people hated me and I hated myself, and today I've learned to love myself, love other people. I absolutely love my job. I love my career. I love my life and my family. And, I never thought for me, and I hope that if there's anyone listening out there, and I shared this, I spoke for H&I out in PA the other week, and I felt the need to share this, that I want people to know that they're worth it. That they're worth a better life, and even though you can't see the end game, even though you can't see where you're going to be in 10 years, just know that you can be in a better place. You don't know how to get there yet, but start doing the right things, start asking for help, start accepting help, and things will eventually get better and better.
If you want help, there is help out there for you.
Yes.
In many different ways, shapes, and forms. You have to make the first call, right? To pick up the phone and dial 10 numbers.
Mm-hmm. And
we know how hard that is.
How difficult can it be to dial 10 digits?
It can be some of the hardest things to do.
Heaviest thing in the world.
That's for sure. My name's Rob Strauber. I'm a person in long-term recovery, and for me that means I haven't had the need for a mind-altering chemical since October 10th, 2007. I say that because I want to represent a solution and not the problem, and I certainly was part of the problem for quite a long time, and I blew through a marriage, I almost lost my son, was close to losing my home, And, I just reached a point where I couldn't control the substances anymore. And, I went into treatment because I wanted my wife and my life back, and I didn't get either one of those the way that I wanted to have them, and thank God for that. Through the recovery process, I've been able to find a God, and through finding a God, I was able to find a church. And walking into that church, I met a Sunday school teacher who would turn out to be my wife. She had two beautiful daughters, and they've been calling me daddy for a long time. And we had ours 6 years ago. So I just want to give a shout out to my wife Sarah and my kids Alex, Bobby, Jane, Caroline, and Ben. My wife, who has no problems kind of cutting me down to size from time to time.
That's what they do. It's part of their job description.
I do need it. I can't stand it, but I do need it. But recovery has given me so much more. I mean, to be able to purchase a new home and have an opportunity to be part of a solution. I've been in this business about 6 years, and I used to run clubs, country clubs for a living, and I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing, and so I started to work in a recovery house, and I think I was then shown that I was what I was supposed to be when I grew up. And from that recovery house, I started working in a treatment center, and I started working with families, and I met a fabulous man who left us about a month ago, left this earth, Jay Utes, who was also on this program a few months back, who took me under his wing and said, you know what, I'm going to show you how you can get in there and get somebody out. And thank goodness for that. And that was my aha moment. So now, many hundreds of these later, and thousands of families being able to work with and represent a solution and hope. I feel like I'm probably the most blessed person with the best job, and I know everybody's saying that as well. And that's the beauty of this, right? I mean, if you don't have the passion and you don't truly want to help somebody, this is the wrong business for you to be in. And morning, noon, and night, relapse doesn't work just 9 to 5. And I think the important part is that we can all stand together. I do a lot of advocacy. Fortunate to do some public speaking in regards to this, and I just want to start to see some of those numbers go down. There's a website 144 a day, and just a few months ago that website said 129 a day. And
actually, I believe it's 149 a day.
So it continues to go up, and that number, it represents the number daily of drug and alcohol overdoses, of which 70% are opioid related. And that's alarming, because if you put that into perspective, that's a loaded 747 dropping out of the sky every 3 days. And I guarantee you, if a loaded 747 was dropping out of the skies, there'd be a lot of people having to answer a lot of questions. And we need to hold our representatives to the fire and hold them responsible to continue to work with us to find a solution that works. And I think we've made a lot of headway, but I think we have a long way to go, and I don't think we're out of this by the long shot. So what I always urge everybody to do is, let's keep talking. Okay, let's put everything out on the table. Let's keep representing a solution, and if it's not working, let's do something different. But let's just keep moving one foot in front of the other. But thanks again, John, for having me on.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Real quick, since my wife is listening at home, and Rob threw a shout out, when I get home, I'll get crushed. But it's important. My wife Valerie stayed with me through a pretty rough couple of years when all my behavior and my addiction came to light. And there was a good chance that I was going to go to jail for a long time. And she stuck with me. So shout out to you, Val. Thanks.
So you can go home tonight now.
I can.
Yeah.
You'll be safe
The door
when you
won't
get
be
home
locked.
after that.
Well, I want to just say, who's going to
We got like 8 minutes left.
Yeah, I know we do. Relax.
If I was any more relaxed, I'd be snoring.
Well, I'm glad you're not. It's great. I mean, to work with all these wonderful people that I get a chance to every day is just incredible.
To think that 4 years ago I was in a room full of people that couldn't stand their jobs, and now I'm in a room full of people that love their jobs.
How's that from
just
flipping the script, huh? This is just amazing.
Holy shnikes.
What else you got under there? Give us a bizarre
I have no life, man. I could sit here and have a whole conversation and never talk, okay?
His daughter's shaking her head at me.
Yeah, she knows.
Does he do it to you at home? Is you just hear this stuff all day?
Yeah, he's busy on that.
And how many times did you hear our new opening?
So what you do? Run it by them first before you...
No, they're forced to hear it over and over again while I compile it.
You must be a real treat at home.
Yeah.
But this is great. It was a great, really great show tonight. I'm thankful for our guests. I mean, just week by week, it's just, I'm surrounded by people who always lift me up. And that's just absolutely incredible. I mean, you know, if I would have made a list of what I wanted when I got clean, it would have been real. I would have been cheating myself so much because I got so much more than I ever dreamed possible.
So before we go, John, if there was a first responder or someone who needed some help or guidance or help with their addiction, is there a way they can get in touch with you? Or?
Sure, absolutely. They can get in touch with me directly. My cell number is 215-833-1572, or they could go to our website, which is frontlinerehab.com.
Rob, how about you? If somebody was seeking help or needed intervention?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. I represent a company called Recovery Centers of America, and our number is 1-800-RECOVERY. You can't get any easier than that. We're open 24/7 in regards to our call center, and somebody will be there ready and willing to help you. My cell phone number is 484-716-1435 as well. You know, we'll be able to talk some things through and figure out what's going on. And our website's 1-800-RECOVERY as well, .com. Thanks.
I've used all that at some point in time in the last recent time.
And my phone number, you can reach me directly at 856-677-6545. My phone is always on. Also, people message me through Facebook a lot. For some reason, a lot of people who reach out to me don't actually have minutes on their phone, so you can reach me at Mary MacGregor on Facebook. And my phone is always on. I answer all the time. My phone never dies.
My phone's always on.
Mine too. I like them 3 o'clock a.m. calls.
I'll be answering
they're
them.
the best.
But I give him Rob's number.
With 3 a.m. calls, just dial 1-800-RECOVERY. I will get back to you by 7 a.m.
That's the number I give him. I give him the 1-800.
When a sponsor calls me at 3 a.m., you better be dying.
Yeah. I tell the guys, why are you calling me at 2 o'clock in the morning when you're drunk? Why didn't you call me at 11 before you picked up?
That's right. That's right.
Because picking up the phone and dialing those 10 digits is the hardest thing people can do.
That's right.
I remember I had a sponsor, my first sponsor, and he was speaking at a convention, and it was getting close to the time he was supposed to start speaking. Right? And everybody's saying, "Where's your sponsor? Is he coming?" Well, I said, "Yeah, he was out in the hall last I saw him." He walks in with a phone and puts the phone down on the desk where he was sharing. And he said, "That is the most important thing that any addict can do." And I thought, he's really losing his mind. But it was probably the best thing that he had to say the whole time, you know? Because that's important. If you can't reach out, we don't know what's going on with you, you know? I relapsed after 20 years because I couldn't let you all know how much pain I was in, and I couldn't ask you for help. when it was all around me. I mean, people that would go through the trenches with me. It was available to me, and I couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. Yeah.
But you got back on a horse, right?
Yeah, I did. Grateful for the opportunity. Didn't let this one go by. I haven't looked back. I live in the now.
And you're picking that phone up, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's so important. I always tell the clients that I work with, you need to be on the phone every day talking to your sponsor and at least 3 or 4 other people in recovery, because when things are going good, if you're not doing that, when things don't go good or you get in a certain funk or feeling, you're never going to pick up that phone if you haven't already done it.
Exactly. Like Rob and I played 1 or 2 phone tags today.
We did.
But when I pulled up, he was calling me, and I'm on the phone with somebody else, and I'm trying to text somebody. It's insane. And then I had to go back and look at an email for some more information that I needed, so it was just, and I'm driving all at the same time.
Oh, goody.
I'm so crazy. Okay, another installment of Living Clean and Sober.
And that's how she wrote.
So I want to thank everybody for listening. If you did listen, you didn't call, but that's okay. It's tough to dial 10 digits. I want to thank again from the bottom of my heart, Mary, John, and Rob, and Sam over there. How you doing? Next time, please don't talk so much, okay?
Hold it down a bit.
Artie, great job as always.
Thank you, sir.
And I want to thank everybody for listening, and until next week, be well.
So this is it, I say goodbye to this chapter of my ever-changing life, and these mistakes, the path is long, and I'm sure I'll answer for them when I'm gone. So when the day comes in and the sun won't touch my face, tell the ones who cared enough that I finally left this place that's been so cold. Look at my face, all the stories it will tell I can't erase. The road is long, just one more song, a little something to remind you when I'm gone, when I'm gone. The road to hell along the way is paved with good intentions, so they say, and some believe that no good deed goes unpunished in the end, or so it seems. So when the day comes in and the sun won't touch my face, tell the ones who cared enough that I finally left this place that's been so cold. Look at my face, all the stories it will tell I can't erase. The road is long, a little something to remind you when I'm gone, when I'm gone. So this is it, I say goodbye to this chapter of my ever-changing life. And these mistakes, the path was long, and I'm sure I'll answer for them when I